Welcome. In today's video, we look at basics in writing a paper. Writing a paper involves including abstract, introduction, literature, methodology, results, conclusion, references, and appendix. We are now coming to learn each component in detail. Introduction, based on my experience, is the difficult section among all. It does not follow any method, but if your introduction can answer main questions, you should be good to go. The first question is, what do we know? Here you write a general knowledge about your topic based on previous studies. The second question, how do we get to know? Here you back up the general knowledge with theoretically and or empirically previous studies. The third question, what do we not know? Here you highlight failures from previous studies with regard to your topic. And the last question, why should we care? Here you mention how your study fills in the gap and how it contributes not only to academia, which is the existing literature, but also to the case being studied. It can be a firm, a country, an institution, or an individual. Also, firms, countries, institutions, or individuals. In the literature, you review all the papers relevant to your study. You should be able to review at least 10 papers. You can review them in terms of objectives, models, and even findings. So it depends on where your filling gap is. If your value added is on objective, you go ahead with it. If it is on models, you still make it, and so on. After reviewing, don't forget to again mention the value added of your topic to the existing literature. Every study has hypotheses, the null against the alternative. So if you want your readers to read your hypothesis, you can have your null ones under this section. The methodology section is usually made of two main subheadings. The data subheading, which comprises data source and variables, where your data come from, and whether they are primary or secondary, qualitative or quantitative. You also need to tell the variables you are using whether they are coming from your own perception or from the literature. So if they are coming from your own, you need strong argument to justify them. If picked from the literature, you need to cite those papers. The method subheading has to do with the model you are using to run your data. Again, if the model is coming from your own, you justify it. If it's coming from the literature, you cite those papers. And here, the approach you usually use comes with equations, so don't forget to show working under this section. Outcomes of data running through modeling can come in the form of tables and or graphs. You can start by presenting the descriptive statistics outcome, then end with presenting the outcome for each of your studies objective. You first interpret whatever you have in the tables and or graphs, then you engage into a discussion. As the discussion evolves, you need to be able to tell whether your findings are accepting or rejecting your null hypothesis. You also need to back up your findings with previous studies' findings, as in whether your findings are in line with previous ones or not. Whatever paper you cite under the results section should also be found in the literature section. If they are not found there, you need to find a way to incorporate them. The conclusion completes the entire work. It gives the picture of what has been achieved while still recalling the purpose of the study, its originality, the methodology of the study, and its findings. The implication of the study has to do with what the study implies. Then you can suggest recommendations based on the situation on ground. You end with mentioning what your study could cover and provide what is needed for more investigation. All the papers cited in the work should appear under the references section. There are several references styles, but the common one goes by the name of the authors, the year of publication, the title, the journal name, the volume, the issue, and the page numbers. Everything that is part of the work that can be omitted without disturbing the reader's attention should be redacted under the appendix section. This section is more like the conclusion one, but in its brief sense. Beneath the abstract comes the key words ranging from 4 to 12 depending on the journals. Then comes the paper type. Here it can be a research paper, a review article, or a case study. Some journals prefer the paper type to come in form of the Journal of Economic Literature classification. So the JEL uses a code to identify the paper. So if your paper, for instance, is on insurance, your JEL code should be G22. Mind you, the abstract appears on the first page of the paper or the manuscript, and above it we have the title of the paper or the manuscript, followed by the authors' names and their affiliation. And here the affiliation should be linked to the originate place you started writing your manuscript. That brings us to the end of today's video. Thanks for listening.